I took a class by instructor Zena James called Gel Plate Jumpstart, and it was a class for beginners, at the end of which I was drawn to continue experimenting with different paper substrates to see what kind of different textures I could make with a gel plate. I love translucency in my work, so I mostly used very thin, translucent type papers. And when this piece happened, I was instantly in love because it's all about the line. So I decided then that this would become the start of a project to see how much I could express with, for the most part, only line, and mostly with things made on the gel plate. I used a rectangular format in sizes ranging from 6 to about 14 inches in height, about half as wide, because to me, a rectangle is just a big fat line. And I'll stay with this slide format most of the time with the full piece on the left and a detail on the right. It was about a week or two of working on the project that I went back to look at this piece that started everything. And that's when I saw the dreaded flaw. It was disproportionately disappointing at the time. And you can see it sort of in the middle on the detail piece up at the top, little squiggly black line. And there's no way to save the piece. I didn't want to cover it up with anything else. And I could remove it digitally, but the point was to make tangible art. So this is how it stays and why I named it Imperfection. Of course, I tried to repeat it, although with my scientific background and being a big experimenter, I had to try a different color and a little different texture. But it really didn't give me the same feeling as the first piece. And so in Fragility, the imperfection with the piece is primarily in my own expectations of how it should have turned out. It forced me to think about my reaction to imperfection at a much deeper level, mostly because the first piece meant so much to me in a way that's hard to describe, but also just working with paper collage, placing elements, especially lines, exactly where you want them, not crooked to each other. And then the nature of the gel plate that causes much more uncertainty in art making than maybe I was used to. Thinking about all the ways each of the pieces I was making contained different perceptions of imperfection, I began to realize how much this idea of imperfection was behind many of the things that I struggle with. For example, I often find myself asking, am I good enough as a person? Am I doing this life correctly? And this is usually started by a fear that I did or said something wrong, or not understanding why someone acted or did not act a certain way in a certain situation. And I began to realize as I worked that imperfection is not really a separate event, something that happens at certain times and not at others. I think imperfection is a ubiquitous constant in life, just like the thermal radiation in space called the cosmic microwave background is a uniform and inseparable part of the universe's frequency. Imperfection is not a variable dependent on our actions. It's an expected constant all throughout our lives. It's the background we walk on. I had been asking the wrong question. Am I a good person? in response to an assumed imperfection in the way that I wanted to be as a human, in the way I felt I was expected to exist in the world, like I was missing the mark for some gold standard. And if imperfection really is a constant, unavoidable background to life, does this mean I have to constantly struggle against limitations? What if I reframe limitations then too? Do away with them as a purely restrictive element and look at them as if I really believe, down to my core, that I am a creative, that I trust my intuition, that a creative lives to figure things out. And going one step further, I wholeheartedly not only trust my ability to figure things out, I can actually enjoy a lot more of the not knowing than I think I do. And this is something I've been working on for quite a while. I enjoy the mystery of asking what if. And life would be so much less interesting if I knew all of the answers to that question. When I can get my fear of the unknown future out of the way, then what do limitations become? What does imperfection become? Maybe it becomes an exciting way to learn, an exciting way to grow, an exciting way to become something new. Certainly not always easily, not always without pain or sorrow, but I think it can be done a lot easier in a lot more situations than my fears have made it out to be. I had thought the goal in life was learning how not to make more mistakes. But what I'm really learning is how to be unafraid of making mistakes. If imperfection is a constant, making fewer mistakes may not even be possible. Not making the same mistake, yes, but making less total mistakes? Probably not. I had been searching for protection from mistakes, protection from guilt, protection from self hatred, from having to make apologies, which is just protection from the need to act. If imperfection is a constant, unavoidable background of being alive, then I had been looking for protection from the necessity of living, of being alive. I think I'm not only not meant to know where the path is going, but also, because of imperfection, I can't know with much certainty where I'm even headed. Free will exists both inside and outside myself, all around me. What I choose changes both my future and it changes the past, and physicists are now proving that experimentally. They are discovering that everything, everywhere, may always be in a state of flux, a state of probabilities until we measure it, until we really decide to look at it. Safety and reassurance don't come then from fixed positions. And I think it very likely that they don't even come in forms we easily see or understand. But I think they are there. We just have to keep hunting for them. The meaning of a life filled with imperfection, then, becomes a life of noticing, a life of letting things in, a life as wide awake as I can be, and always letting curiosity lead the way. At any given moment, anything can happen, and I always have choices about how to respond. So, do I still love this piece as much as I did before I saw its glaring imperfection? Maybe not yet, but it's growing on me.